This conference will now be recorded.
Oh, welcome everyone. I hope you guys can see my screen and you can hear me well. So in yesterday we were going over this development and deployment evolution, software development and deployment evolution, and we did understand that as per the current market trend, we need to know about DevOps, microservices, containers, and cloud, and how these things are related to a performance engineer performance field for any testers or engineers or anyone who is working with performance managers. So, and these things are new to this market, and that's what's going on currently, and that's what people is asking for. Anywhere you go, any interview you attend, there will not be any interview without mentioning about these topics. So I hope you guys must have observed that. So that's the main intention of coming up with this course. We have gone over the brief about these topics yesterday, DevOps, microservices, containers, and cloud. And today we're going to start with our journey with cloud. That's what we're going to start today. We'll start from very scratch, okay, and then we'll ramp up. So let's get started with the cloud. Okay, okay. So the name for this mm, topic is cloud computing. Okay, so that's the course topics that we're gonna cover in this cloud computing. We're gonna start with the introduction of why cloud computing, why it is required, various definition of cloud computing and various service models that we have, infrastructure as service, platform as service, software as service, deployment models. What do we mean by deployment models? And these major cloud providers, what are the major players in the market that we have? We have to just say some of things. We have AWS, Azure, and GCP, Google Cloud. So the idea is that if we understand one cloud service provider, if we know in depth of any one public cloud service provider, so we are picking up AWS here. Okay, it's easy. It's very much easy to understand any other public cloud service provider. That's the main intention. So that's what we'll try to cover today. Someone asked this question yesterday that uh, uh, people are also looking for Azure. Yes, it depends on their company selection, which cloud provider they are using. AWS, why I have taken up, because it has the maximum market share at this point of time, but Azure and GCP and other cloud providers are also picking up, and they're giving a good fight to AWS. But AWS still the market, and that is why we have taken up this AWS, and this course is dedicated to AWS cloud service provider. Having said this, if you know any one cloud service provider, it's easy to understand others because they implement in the same way. They have a similar services. That's what we're going to find out today by the end of this session. How it is easy to relate any other cloud service provider if you know one. That's what we will understand this today. And then we'll start with the real AWS cloud, AWS journey. We'll create accounts and we'll go over AWS. So till this point, till 6 point, it's all about the common cloud part that I'm going to cover. And then I'm going to talk about uh, how it is easy to understand other cloud service provider if you know one. And then from 7th point, I'm going to cover about AWS budget setup. How do we do budget setup? What is regions? What is AZs? What is IAM? So these are all these words related to AWS specific. Compute services, how do we provision EC2 instances, what is private public elastic IP. So that's also common across all the cloud service provider. Everyone is having private, public, and elastic. Connect. How do you connect to your instance remotely? How do you install any software? That's why we have taken up this Linux command line, and that's why we have that course to understand, can we easily install any software in Linux command line? How do we do that? We'll talk about storage services. of AWS, EBS, EFS, and S3. Networking, the most important of it, because if we do not understand the networking, we cannot implement a cloud solution. We need to understand in and out of it, the public subnet, private subnet. So we'll go over each and everything, and then we'll ramp up slowly. So serverless services, SLS services, we call it Lambda, API gateway, SNS. What do we mean by that? AWS cloud formation. If we have to build up the infrastructure, how can we, what service of AWS can we use to build the infrastructure? Beanstalk. So, and then load balancing, auto scaling group, and then CloudWatch. So we're gonna take up these things slowly, okay? And that will be our cloud journey. And then we'll shift to our next topics. They are microservices, containers, Kubernetes, and Jenkins. Okay, so let's start with this. Okay, so before we start, uh, I would like you to understand that when I say a data center, okay, when I mention this data center word, there should be something in your mind should pop up, some image. Okay, I want you guys to pop this image. Okay, data center means it's a infrastructure where a lot of servers are placed, lot of servers. So you see a building here, a lot of cooling mechanism is there because these servers creates these many servers create lots of heat, lots and lots of heat. You know that if even if your laptop, small laptop would generate heat, right? If you just you know about that. So if they're having so many servers, so they would create a lot of heat. And so in this infrastructure, you need to have a proper cooling mechanism to maintain the heat, and you have to purchase the land, you have to build the entire infrastructure and things, a lot more things. So that's what I would like you to imagine when I use this word data center. Okay, uh, so that's it. So that's the first topic. Secondly, let's understand this cloud computing. What do we mean by cloud? Okay, so we have two things. We call something called on-prem, and then we have something on cloud. So on-prem means that if I own this hardware, if I own this infrastructure, if I own this building, if I own all the servers in this building, I own this, I have purchased this, I have built it. So it's my own. And then on these servers, I'm deploying my application. Okay, that's the on-prem for me. That's what I mean by on-prem. Everything I am owning it. It's my infrastructure, it's my server, it's everything is mine. So it's on-prem. So companies, bigger companies, not everyone can afford to build a data center. So bigger companies, only they can build their own data centers. So you might have heard this word on-prem. Okay. So they own this data center, and then they deploy their application on these data centers. So they call it on-prem. What is cloud? If I do not own this, someone else owns this. Cloud, AWS, Amazon guys owns this, Microsoft guys owns this, Google guys owns this. And I'm just going to use this servers or the services that they offer, and I'm going to pay them for the time I use their resources. So when I say resources, I meant everything. I meant servers, I meant their hardware, their operating system, their everything. In resources, everything came up. Okay, so when I use their resources, because I don't own this data center, someone else owns it. Okay, but I'm going to use these resources and I'm going to deploy my application, and then I can get my business going, right? So those things are called cloud. That's the only difference. That's the basic difference. The data center I own is on-prem, and the resources which I do not own, and I just use it to get my work done. Okay, and I just pay for and I just pay the rent. It's a rent. Okay, it's you don't purchase the hardware. You don't purchase from Google, you don't purchase from Amazon, you don't purchase from Microsoft, any cloud service provider. You don't purchase hardware. you rent them, and then you keep paying rent till the time you use it. More the resource you use, more the rent. I hope that is easy to understand. So if I'm having that kind of setup, so I'm using cloud service provider. So that's the basic difference between on-prem and cloud. I hope everyone understood this part, because people struggle to understand this basic part. Okay, and uh, and then customers owning all the hardware and other components in their data center to run application or program. So this was the case before, and that was the on-prem infrastructure. So here you can understand that I am owning everything. So when I say I own the data center, basically I own everything here: a data center, networking, storage, servers, virtualization, operating system. Even if I'm using any operating system for my server, if it's Windows or Linux, I have to own that. I have to purchase the license. And so when you ask Amazon guys or my Microsoft guys like AWS, Azure, or GCP, I'm talking here mostly, they if they're using operating system, they pay license for that. Okay. And then accordingly, if you ask them that I need to use this operating system, you have to pay them also. If they have purchased, suppose, Amazon, if they're using Windows operating system, so they are paying to Microsoft. So accordingly, they will charge you if you are trying to use uh, Amazon servers with Windows operating system. Okay, so they're going to charge you back. Okay, so that's how the things goes on. Okay, and that's what the meaning of on-prem and cloud. I hope you understood the basic difference of these things. This is very important to understand. And what is cloud computing? Allows people access to the same kinds of application through the internet. And what is the benefit? That I can be located anywhere, and I can access the servers remotely. That's the best part of it. I am currently located somewhere, but I can go to this AWS console here, and I can select any of the region wherever they have their data centers. I can select any of the region, and I can create instances located remotely. I need not be near that data center. Uh, I can be in India, but I can create one instance. I can create one server in Frankfurt. I can create one server in Tokyo, and I can deploy my application in Tokyo. So that's the power, and remotely I can access everything, each and everything. And we have services. We'll talk about that. I'm talking about just the AWS right now, but same thing goes for other cloud service providers, for Azure and GCP. They have so many services to use. If I and you need to know what service to use when. So suppose if I intend to leverage one server, so I know I need to go to EC2 here. That's the EC2. That's what you need to know. Okay, so EC2, I come here and I can launch one instance. So currently in this, I've selected this Frankfurt region. I'm in this. So currently you can see that my 3 servers is running. Okay, so I provision 3 servers in Frankfurt region remotely, and I can deploy my application. I have deployed a web server here. Okay, I can show you in this one of the instances. I have deployed a web server. If I just use my public IP to just demonstrate you, that you would see it's a load balancer. So I have not just configured these instances, but I've also configured the load balancer. Okay, and if because I have integrated my servers to this load balancer, so I cannot access the servers directly. I have to use through load balancer. If I hit this URL, you would see that I display a web page. It's a web page that I have customized. uh, I can also hit directly the servers, but I need to change something in the security group. Okay, I can also hit this, but I need to change something in the security group. I have to uh, because I have configured this, so I know. So once you start understanding these things, you would know that how to operate in cloud. So if there is security group, there are something called rules. Okay, uh, so I have selected the source as the load balancer. If I make the source that anyone can access this, I can also hit this. So I just change my security group load balancer of the server, and what I have done, anyone, this means anyone, any IP can access this. Even you guys can access this, not just me. So even I get to see that. If you don't believe this, I'm going to send this link to you. You can also access this guy. Okay, I'm going to put this in the chat window. Just and 80, you have to, yeah, you can just hit this guy and you can just see that you can also access this. Okay. So that's how it is. So you can, so it's a web server. Okay, it's a web server that I have deployed, and I can access this web server from anywhere. Where is my server located? My server is located in Frankfurt region, in somewhere in Europe. They have a data center. I have provisioned one server there, and I have deployed one web server, and that's my web page. I can build a Flipkart.com. I can build Amazon.com. I just need to deploy my web page and media files there on this server. I have the server. On this server, I just need to go to this server, connect to this server through PuTTY, and I just need to deploy my media files and my web pages, and this content to change. So that's the power. Okay, Sunil, I do not understand your question. Can you speak, Sunil? How do F5 play a role here? What is this F5?
Yeah, I have seen F5 kind of a load balancers also. Apart from the cloud load balancer, there will be some switching
We'll talk
mechanism.
about that. We'll talk about that in detail soon. That topic is not that relevant right now. Once I
Oh,
talk about the load balancer in upcoming sessions, we'll definitely talk about that. Okay.
oh,
So the topic is something else. Where I'm just talking about the brief about the cloud and all those stuff. So we'll take up your question once we discuss the load balancer in detail. Okay.
sure.
That makes more sense. Okay, thank you. So that's the point here. Okay, so I can be remotely located and I can access anywhere, any server, anywhere in this world, wherever their servers are located. Obviously, they have so many regions across the world, and I can access any of these servers, and I can deploy any of my application. I can install load balancer, auto scaling group. We call it cloud as elastic. So if the load increases, I would like my instances to get auto provisioned to accommodate the extra load. I can also set that up. So that's, I'm just talking about AWS. Once you understand any one cloud service provider, it's easy for you to understand any other. Okay, I'll talk about that. Okay, let me go slowly. I hope you understood the basics of the cloud and the difference between on-prem. That's what I wanted to understand, make you guys understand. So why do we use cloud computing? What is the benefit? The best benefit is cost reduction. Not everyone can build data center. Not everyone can afford to build a data center. It's a huge costly affair, very expensive, and renting one resource, renting few servers, renting few of their services in any cloud service provider is very easy. Even you can do that. If you have an idea and if you're thinking to create a website, you can just use the cloud service provider and you can get your business going. But just think about some 30 to 40 years back. If you have an idea, you have to build the entire data center to host your application. That's the revolution, and that's why you see so many startups coming up right now, and they just use the cloud service provider, and they just uh, use the cloud service provider. They just pay the rent, and they set up their own business, right? Scalability, you don't need to worry about the servers scalability issue. If you need more servers, uh, yes. Yes, Prem. So this is out of context question, Prem. Okay. We'll talk about these things, questions, Prem. Okay. Just once we talk about more about in detail about any cloud service provider, well, once we talk about the EC2 instances, how to provision instances, what all instance type, I'll talk about those things. Okay, just go with the flow. If you have any questions in these topics, let me know. What is the sure? What's the benefit? Scalability. Uh, in on-prem, if you suppose you need to accommodate 1,000 user load for one day, let's say you're having one data center and you have a business requirement. Like let's say this Amazon.com example, Black Friday. So they have a huge load on this day, like Flipkart, Big Million Day comes up. They have a huge, because they have lots of discounts going on, and most of the people, the load is comparatively higher on those days. So what happens? They need to deploy more servers to accommodate the extra user load, right? That's what happens. And if they are having their own data center, let's say they have to purchase all the servers and they have to deploy it. And those days, those kind of load comes very rarely, right? Not daily, right? So they have to they have purchased the hardware. It will go waste. They not go waste, but they cannot use it. They will not be able to use properly utilize the hardware they have purchased it. Just for one day, for Big Million Day or those days, Christmas, Thanksgiving, or any particular sale occasion, they may purchase the hardware, but rest of the days, rest of the year, they are not going to use that. But in the cloud, I do not need to worry about that. What I can do for that particular day, I can go to auto scaling group here, okay, and for that particular day, I can schedule that please do one thing on this day, create more servers, have more servers. So I'm just going to pay for the additional resource only for that day where I'm expecting more user load. Next day, they can take those things back. They can take back their servers. And I just paid for one day. So scalability is never an issue in the cloud. Huge advantage, right? Huge advantage over the on-prem infrastructure. But if you own it, if AWS itself they want to take care, they have this, they provide this. So if AWS, Amazon.com, they have their own data center. So many they are providing public cloud service provider to everyone. They can leverage that. That's not an issue. But I'm talking about which do not have their own data center, what they can do and what. So it's a huge costly affair. Okay, so scalability is never an issue in the cloud. Disaster recovery. So what you can do, you can configure the disaster recovery as well. So from one data center, from one region to another region, you can maintain a copy. So if something goes wrong in one of the data center, your request will be picked by other data center. So what I can do, I can, while configuring your application, I need not depend on only one AZ. I can I can configure multiple data centers. I can create my servers on multiple data centers. If suppose one of the data centers goes down for any some disaster reasons, okay, your application is still up because the request can be served by the other server, which is in the other data center. So think like that. So disaster recovery is a solution. But if you are setting up your own data center, you have to make sure that you have one more data center set up to have that sort of uh, offering, right? Data security, you have so many security options in the cloud. Okay, you just now I talked about few of the security regions, security group I just showed you. There are other security as well. You and data is secure in the cloud. Okay, there are other things you can do that. Most of the people, what they do, they use hybrid cloud model. Okay, in the hybrid cloud model, they would not host their database on the cloud. They would have on-prem. and then they can have their other servers on the cloud. So they maintain a hybrid cloud model so that they're not dependent on they don't want to expose their data to the cloud service provider. So data is secure, mobility, control, and you get a lot of control. I get to control about all my servers. Tomorrow, if I think, suppose my user based, now currently I'm deploying my application in Frankfurt, and I suppose for tomorrow I think my user base is also in US. So I can also deploy a few servers in US so that my US folks get a better response. Okay, the lesser the distance, better the response, right? Delay. It will be even for nanosecond, but it will be, because if my server is in Frankfurt, and if someone from Australia or someone from Tokyo is trying to get the information from the server which is there in the Europe, it will take some time, distance. Right? So if I understand that if I have the user base in some other countries as well, I can deploy my application there as well. So there are a lot of options in cloud which I do not have with on-prem infrastructure. Okay, automatic software updates. They have it. You don't need to worry about it. I can just if there is some software updates, it can be taken care. Okay, even you can do that, but you just need to connect to this one of the EC2 instances, and you can do that, and software will be updated. You don't need to uh, break your head down to get your software updated. They can do it on your behalf. Okay, in the cloud. Okay, so that's the basic difference. That's what this mean, cloud computing. I hope you understood the basic of cloud computing and why do we need cloud computing and why it is such in demand, and the comparison over the on-premise infrastructure. Okay, so let's come to the definition part of it, the official definition. So a cloud is using virtualization and automation. So cloud means virtualization and automation. Okay. So just remember these two words, virtualization and automation. So that's what I'm doing here. Okay. To provide users with self-service, that's the important word, self-service computing products that provides infinite scale at low cost. So infinite scale, I hope you guys can relate that I can have as many servers as I need. Low cost, obviously it will be cheaper than the on-prem infrastructure at any day. Self-service, I can just, everything is there. You just need to go and select what do you want, what type of configuration you would like to have for your application. Everything is there, so it's self-service. If so you get to decide what do you want, how do you want to set up your application in cloud. And virtualization and automation, so that's very two important words that should come up when you talk about the cloud. Virtualization, everything is virtualization, right? Virtualization, when I say, I mean to say when I'm creating this EC2 instance, when I'm creating this EC2 instance here, that's the compute. Okay, some if you in Azure, you they call it compute as well. Okay, I'll talk about that. The name changes, but the core functionality remains the same. With any other cloud service provider, the name changes. Okay, let me just take this uh, occasion to talk about that. So this is the link. Okay, here, if I have to just someone asked this question yesterday that Azure people are looking for Azure, and I just replied that if you know one cloud service provider, anyone, it's very easy to understand the any other cloud service provider. So let's take this example of Azure, AWS to Azure. Okay, so yeah, I have EC2 instance. I just showed you that in AWS I have something called instances, and which comes under EC2. EC2 is the service name. EC2, Elastic Compute Cloud, the full form of EC2. It's AWS specific term. But if I have to know the same thing what do we have in EC2? What Azure people calls it? They call it virtual machines. As simple as that. So you need to just log into such thing only, AWS account, like as I have done for AWS, and you need to just find where is virtual machines option. So select that option. And now you can create you can provision your your virtual machine. So that's what I'm doing here. That's the virtual machine. So only the name changes. The core functionality remains the same for all the cloud service provider. Okay. I call it EC2 instance. Uh, Azure guys call it virtual machines. That's fine. Google Cloud will call it compute. That's fine. But eventually, what they are going to do, they are going to create the instance only, and they get and you will get all the options. What operating system you would like to install, what the instance type, how many CPUs you would like to have in your EC2 instance, or in your VM or in compute, how many RAM you would like to have, how much disk you would like to configure, what's the name of the key pair. So that's all remains the same thing. Okay, the name changes. That's the difference. The name changes. uh, I call it auto scaling. In AWS they call it auto scaling. Auto scaling, I just showed you, there's something called auto scaling groups, they call it. Okay. What it is being referred in Azure, they call it uh, virtual machine skill sets. That's fine. That's their name. They have given. They cannot give the same name, right? So that's why they have given this name, virtual machine skill sets. So if you know about auto scaling, if I tell you all the features of auto scaling, will that be difficult? And if I tell you that this is the name they use for auto scaling, will that be difficult to understand what would be inside, what all feature would be there? Almost everyone is having more or less the same feature. What you do in auto scaling, you configure auto scaling. So with extra load, your servers, you expect your EC2 instances, your VMs, your compute to get auto provision, and that will happen. The same thing will happen in Azure or GCP, Google Cloud Platform, or any other cloud service provider, OCI, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, Alibaba, DigitalOcean. So they would have just the name change, but the core functionality remains the same. Tomorrow you may be asked to work in GCP. Does it mean that you have to learn GCP all over again? No, you need to just know the servers, the services name, what they call, and you just need to relate things. More or less, they would have the same functionality. That's the thing. They call it in AWS. There's something called ECS, Elastic Container Service, and we call it Fargate. Okay, and in AWS, this is called a functionality called ECS. So it's one of the container orchestration engine. Okay, so ECS we call it Elastic Container Service. Then we call something called EKS, Elastic Kubernetes Service. We have it in AWS. So the name changes. They call it AKS. Azure guys, they call it Azure Kubernetes Service. For this EKS, they call it AKS. For ECS, they call it, just now I told you, for ECS, they call it container instances. The name changes, okay. For EKS, they call it AKS, Azure Kubernetes Service. So the name changes, okay, but the core functionality remains the same. Databases, Amazon guys call it RDS, Relational Database Service. But Azure guys, they call it, they have three options: SQL database, you can provision database for MySQL, and database for PostgreSQL. So they have three options here. Even these guys have three options. Under RDS, you get to see all these options. If I have to just show you in RDS, Cloud Service Provider, uh, RDS, Relational Database Service, so they have all these options here, and they have just they have kept it separate. So if I create a database, I get to select all the options what they are giving you, what they are showing up. Let me just refresh. So you get to select MySQL, you get to select PostgRE SQL, you get to select Oracle, you get to select Microsoft SQL Server, MariaDB. You have 6 options here to select any of the RDS, relational database. And what Azure guys are doing, they are giving separate offerings. That's fine. Doesn't make any sense. It's the same thing. Okay. So what I intend to convey that if you know one cloud service provider, it's easy to understand any other cloud service provider. That's what I'm trying to convey here. Okay. And the list goes on. List goes on. I use CloudWatch. In AWS, use CloudWatch. They use this word monitor. CloudWatch is the most important service where you get to collect all the metrics. Okay, CloudWatch. In AWS, it's called CloudWatch, and there you would find monitor. This word monitor, and both are doing the same thing. They are monitoring only. They're used for the monitoring, collecting all the metrics. That's the main objective of CloudWatch. What's the name? Monitor your application using CloudWatch. And that's what they are giving the name. They are giving the name as monitor. Monitor. That's fine. The list goes on. Okay. So I hope you understood this difference. So just focus on any one cloud service provider, and we'll be taking up AWS here in this course. Still the market leader. There's no doubt about that. But if you know one, very easy to relate other cloud service provider. Okay. I'll talk about that again in detail. So yeah. So what is a cloud? Okay. What is a cloud? So when I say cloud, just remember these two words: virtualization and automation. I'm doing a virtualization. When I create EC2 instance, basically what I do, I virtualize things. You know virtualization, right? Virtualization you have a bigger physical server box, and then you use any virtualization software, and then you create VMs. For the VMs, they're calling it EC2 instances. I can launch any. So these are the VMs. So virtualization I'm doing basically, and automation. Obviously, I'm getting to provision all these servers with automation. If they have done it automations in such a way that once you suppose try to launch an instance, you can configure your server that you need Red Hat operating system. No, I want Windows. That's fine. Someone would tell I need Ubuntu. Someone would tell I need Amazon Linux. Someone would tell I need this Ubuntu this flavor. Someone would tell I need Windows this version. So you get to customize your server, and you have again you can also customize the number of instances, number of CPUs, number of RAM that you have. So you have T2.micro. T2.micro has only 1 vCPU RAM and 1 GB RAM. If that is not enough, you can select any other higher version of instance type. You can have 4 vCPU and 16 GB RAM, and you can use T2.x.large. You can have your instance with this instance type. You can create. So you further down the line, you can get to select the storage, how much that disk, the hard disk I'm talking about here. So 10 GB, 20 GB, 1000 GB, what IOPS, okay, input output per second, this operations, disk operations. So if you depends on what volume type you select, the IOPS changes. So everything you can configure. So it's automation. If you want to look at the automation thing, look at the cloud service provider, how they have automated everything. You can customize everything, and then you can create your servers. You can go inside the servers, you can deploy your application, you can configure load balancer, you can integrate your server to the load balancer, you can create auto scaling group, and then you can have your application up and running. You can purchase the domain. You need not go to you can use Google domains or GoDaddy, but they have their own function. They call it your Route 53. You can come here and configure your, you can purchase domain from here. Okay, and then you can have your website up and running with your customized name. Okay, Route 53 is the service they use. Okay, so they have everything. Any cloud service provider. That's what I'm trying to convey here. Okay, and let's coming to the features. To simply put, what is a cloud computing? Cloud computing is computing based on the internet. You get to provision everything. You get access over everything through internet. I'm somewhere located remotely. I'm somewhere else, but I'm getting to create the service in some other countries data center. So that's the characteristic. What you see in this slide, that's the characteristic of the cloud service provider. On-demand self-service. Uh, it's a self-service, right? Provision computing capabilities as needed automatically without requiring human interaction with service provider. Rapid elasticity, yes, as and when you require the servers, you can provision them. Capabilities can be elastically provisioned and released, in some cases automatically, to scale rapidly outward and inward with demand. Broad network access capabilities are available over the network and accessed through the standard mechanisms. Measured service resource uses can be monitored, controlled, and reported, providing transparency for both the provider and consumer of the utilized service. So that's all the features. Resource pooling. So the other features of a cloud computing, the what all you can achieve in this. So the providers computing resource are pooled to serve multiple consumers using multi-tenant model with different resources dynamically assigned and reassigned according to demand. So a lot of good benefits of using cloud computing. So cloud computing is a term used to describe the use of hardware and software delivered via network. I get to provision the servers, that's the hardware. I get to provision the operating system. I get to provision the softwares through internet. Everything is through internet connected remotely. That's the power of cloud computing. Okay, so this is the topic I went over in my first demo. Okay, yesterday, I think yesterday I have gone over it. Uh, so service models are here. Okay, we have on-prem here, and here customers get to manage everything. If I have the data center, I manage all the things here. But I can leverage cloud service provider in three ways. I I have infrastructure as a service, I have platform as a service, I have software as a service. And then in a software as a service, I don't have control over any of these things. I just use the software delivered to me, and which is hosted in the cloud. Cloud, because I do not own the resource, that's cloud. Affordable, anywhere accessibility, ready to use. Your gmail.com, your YouTube, your Google Slides. Currently, you are seeing this presentation in Google Slides. So I'm using them, software as a service. I have just uploaded my file, PPT, and I'm using the software to display the PPT, Google Slides, Google Spreadsheets, Google Docs. These are software as a service. Platform as a service, if you have an environment where you can write the code and execute the code, that's the platform as a service. There are so many online editors, right? You can write your Java program, you can write your Python program, and you can execute it without thinking about the underlying hardware. How many servers would be there? How many runtime environment would be there? You can write any type of code, and it will get executed. That's the platform as a service. Infrastructure as a service is this what most of the company uses this, and in this the users control, the customer controls this uh, blue bars here, the operating system. They get to select the operating system. They get to select the databases that they need to use. They have the option of doing security. They can secure their application in their own way. They get the control over the application. In the platform as service, I just only get the control over the platform on the application that I'm developing. That's it, because that's the code I'm writing. I just get the control over this. I don't have the control over these things. I don't have to manage these things. These things will be managed by the cloud service provider. So I need to contact them. I need to tell them that I need to use AWS, your cloud service provider, using platform as a service. I just need these many things. You can charge. You can let me know how much you will charge, but I need to just develop my application. But I need the runtime environment and the underlying infrastructure. They will charge you accordingly. In a platform, in infrastructure as service, you need to tell them that you need to manage these many things, but I get the control over these many things. Then you can let me know how much you would charge. Most of the companies, they go for infrastructure service because they would like to control over their application, their security, their databases, their operating system, because they know how their application will perform better, what operating system, what databases. They would like to secure their databases as well for their clients, for their customers. So they would like to go for infrastructure service, and they would rely on these hardware, on these servers, their data centers, to be managed by the cloud service provider. Okay. So it depends on the requirement. When do you go for a SaaS, infrastructure service, and platform as service? It all depends on your requirement. If you just need a software to be used anywhere, uh, and you just need a software to be used, so you would go for software as service. If you need a runtime environment, your application environment where you can write the code, execute the code, and you can just create your application, you will go for platform as service. But if you need the control over your application, your operating system, databases, security applications, so you go for infrastructure service. So you can leverage the cloud service provider in these three ways. You have these three options. But here in this on-prem, you get the control over everything because you own everything. I hope everyone understood the difference here. I also went over this yesterday, deployment model, that depending on where your infrastructure is located. Infrastructure for the environment is located, we have these various deployment models. Public cloud, if you're opting for public cloud, so anyone can host their application. It's accessible to public, like your Amazon cloud, your Azure cloud, your Google cloud. Anyone can host their application, right? Not just you. So currently, I have few servers here. Uh, I have, what is that? Okay, what happened? There's some problem. Just so currently, I have provisioned few servers on Frankfurt region, but anyone can host their application. They can provision the servers. Something goes wrong. I don't know what's happening. This becomes slow. Okay, fine. So Frankfurt region. Okay, I provision one server. I deploy my application. So anyone can do that. Even you can provision one server in Frankfurt region and you can deploy the application. That's the public cloud. That's the meaning of public cloud. That anyone can use and leverage their application. Private cloud, if I going for the private cloud, there are players who there are company players who provide private cloud, so only I get to deploy my application in that data center. No one else can. If I'm going for private cloud, basically I have purchased the complete data center itself, so only I get to deploy my application. No one else can. So I have to pay accordingly for the private cloud. Hybrid cloud is like when I have deployed my application at two different places in two different cloud service provider. I can have my one of the servers being deployed in Azure and one of the servers can be deployed in the AWS. So if I have my application deployed in multiple cloud service provider, multiple locations, that could be my on-prem as well. My database could be in on-prem, but my other servers could be in the cloud. So that's also hybrid cloud for me. Okay. So these are the few definitions that we need to know. Community cloud. I can form a community if I am a banking firm or investment firm. What I can do, because I have the same goal, same security thing, same thing to manage. I want my customer data to be super safe and all. I can form a community. I'm like, let's say I'm a pharmaceutical company, and I need to. I'm just launching one application, my website. So what I can do, all the pharmaceutical firm can join together and they can purchase one data center, and then they get to deploy their own application there in that data center. So that's the community cloud for you. There are players who would provide community cloud. So there's something called service model and there is something called deployment model. Just the nomenclature that we need to understand: service models and deployment models. So I hope everyone understood the difference here. And these are the three, I've been talking about these three major cloud service provider: AWS, Azure, and GCP. So again, these are the three currently market leaders, and AWS is still leading because they have started quite early than these guys, Azure and Google. They launched their first service in 2008 itself. They launched with EC2 instance and S3, that's the storage services. I'll talk about that. So they started quite early, Amazon guys. So that's why they have the biggest market capture. Uh, so if I have to talk about the statistics, so as per this Q3 2020, they have this 32% market share. 32% is quite a number, and they have maintained it like that. Azure is having 19% market share, Google Cloud 7%, Alibaba 6%, others 37%. So you can just understand 1/3 of the market is being captured by AWS because they have started quite early, they have matured as compared to others, but others are also picking up nowadays. I get to see a lot of news about Azure and Google Cloud. They are picking up very, very fast. The revenue is increasing, Azure and Google Cloud. Oracle Cloud is coming into picture, OCI. They are also doing good. But still, as I mentioned, right, there would be like 6, 7 top market players. Uh, Three are here: AWS, Microsoft, and Google. There are IBM's cloud as well, Oracle Cloud as well. So if you know one, and you need to understand, be smart enough to understand what would be there in the other. You just need to know the name of the service they are using it. If you know that, you can easily understand any other cloud service provider. And you can just see that. So these are the leaders here in this quadrant. You can just see uh, Amazon Web Services are leading, Microsoft, Google, and Alibaba, Oracle, IBM, and Tencent. They are the niche players in the market. They are picking up very fast. Oracle, I'm hearing a lot of news about this Oracle. They are picking up very fast. They have a huge revenue, and yeah, Microsoft as well. You can get this information in this link. Okay. This PPT would be shared with you, everyone. Okay. Yeah. So that's the brief history about AWS. So they started quite early. They first tried to, what Amazon guys did, they tried to come up with their own application. They have this Amazon.com. They tried to host the Amazon.com in a data center. Okay, that's what they tried initially, and eventually they figured out that this can be leveraged by other companies as well, and that's what they launched in 2008. Okay, with EC2 instance, S3. I'll talk about this S3 as well, and then SNS. And currently, your Netflix, and your Amazon Prime videos, obviously, I mean from Amazon itself, are hosted in AWS. Okay, whatever you see the content in Netflix, it's hosted in AWS. Amazon Prime videos, obviously it's Amazon Prime videos, so obviously will be hosted in Amazon only. So, other players, NASA, Airbnb, Dropbox, they use Amazon AWS. Okay, and we need to create an account first tomorrow what we'll do, we'll create with this account. I'll talk about that, how to get started with the account creation. So if people who are interested to take up this training further, they can sign up, you can create. Everyone, I think everyone, those who are not joining as well, they need to have this Amazon account created. Okay, use this, and you can drop in the links. Okay, so you can use, just go over the free tier details. First one you need to use, you just need to, okay, use this. There's some problem with the website, I think. Amazon either slow today. Okay, that's fine. So you need to create an account, and once you get this message, just follow the steps. Okay, write your email ID, and they would ask for the credit card details. They will not deduct money. They would charge INR 2, Indian rupees 2, but you will get it back as well. And you will get your account set up. Okay, so have this account set up, and you should see this. If you're getting this page, welcome to Amazon Web Services, means you have got your account activated. So try to get your account activated and select the basic plan, free tier. Okay, and once you have this screen got, if you got this screen, means your account is created. Okay, to create this, and we'll take up things forward about AWS. Okay, so that's all about it today from my side. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Hey, Roshan. How do I access the videos and PPTs?
Yes, you will be getting access, Rafiq. Just hold on for a day, I think.
Okay. Okay.
And you'll be
That's all I
notified
wanted
by,
to know.
yes,
That's
you will be
fine.
notified by Kumar and Anita. How can
Okay.
you access? You'll be added to a group, separate group, and you'll be getting all
Okay.
the details.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining. We can meet again tomorrow. Yeah. Thank you. I'm going to stop the recording now.